How's that for a handsome looking face? How you like that? Hey everybody! I don't normally cover every little individual bit of gameplay that comes out of Monster Hunter Wilds, but one, these two videos are particularly interesting to me. I think both of these monsters are looking pretty cool. Cooler than I thought they were going to be, honestly. And the other thing is, videos are going to be a little bit light in January and February because I'm working on that Monster Hunter World Celebration critique video. So having a couple little extra uploads is going to help the paycheck a little bit. So bear in mind, this is not going to be a blind reaction to either of these. I've watched through both of these just because I don't have a lot of time that I actually have to get back to working on World's video. But I wanted to get this out. I wanted to talk about these two because I am liking these monsters way more than I thought I was going to. I think when the Oilwell Basin trailer came out, we were all pretty much centered on the map itself, like the big tarry, muddy, oily, volcanic map. Like, that's an interesting way to change that formula around. And then the Black Flame, especially, was enormously interesting. A giant Cthulhu, eldritch Squidward that doesn't even technically have a name that we know yet. That's really crazy. Has a skeleton that we really haven't seen on anything, barring kinda Nakarkos. So, Rompopolo and Ajarakan, two monsters that I did like. I thought they were odd and weird and cool. I don't feel like they got a ton of coverage, but IGN got a whole bunch of footage of the two of them, about 9 minutes each. I've already watched through them, gonna watch back through them, gonna talk about the fights, talk about the Oilwell Basin itself, and anything else that I really kind of happened to observe, and I'm sure some eagle-eyed individuals like yourselves will probably catch some stuff that I miss. So we're just gonna have fun with it and just kind of get back to being hyped about Wilds, because it's been a little bit of time since we got anything super new about the game. It seems like they're trying to reignite the Wilds hype a little bit, because there's been a little bit of marketing downtime. And these two videos right off the bat, I've seen people talking about them a lot. So we're going to cover them. We're going to look at them. And we're going to get excited for these two new guys and this new map. So one thing I definitely want to bring up, I was noticing a lot looking at the Oilwell Basin, is that there's a lot of stuff that kind of looks like it's human-made structures. So looking up in the top left, you have almost kind of looks like piping and interconnecting things. Doesn't really look like natural formations. Yeah, obviously you have like the stalactites and the stalagmites and stuff like that coming out of the ceiling and whatnot, and that kind of dripping. But then you have those bars that are going along the cave walls and everything. It looks like cut off piping. And then even off on the right side, it kind of looks like these shattered bits of grates. So I'm wondering if the Oilwell Basin is going to have a bit of a backstory, as there was a settlement that was originally around a little bit deeper within this region that got obliterated or got corroded. Maybe the Oilwell Basin wasn't always quite like this and something happened. So this locale, I think, is going to have some kind of interesting backstory that I'm particularly interested in, because some of it definitely looks artificial to me. Good look at his colors too, nice and vibrant, really kind of sticking out from the grays and the blacks that you have with the Oilwell Basin. I like the blues and the violets on him. I think the colors are pretty good, and then mixed in with the blacks that he has as well. Pulls off the sneak attack. So that's a little bit interesting right there with the red glow in his mouth. So from the beta, we had a couple of attacks where after the attack was pulled off, you'd get the red sparks for the weak point, the biggest being Raidow's big railgun attack. So he'd fire off the big electrical bolt, and the fins on his head would kind of go off out to the side as his attack was kind of cooling down. And if you dodged out to the side, but you were close enough and had the good reaction time, you could get back in and pull off a really big hit off on his head. With Rompopolo here, it's kind of the inverse, is as he's charging up for this big poison spew, that's when the red mist for the focus attack shows up. So that's kind of interesting, that different monsters are going to have different opportunities for you to take advantage of different animations. Some are going to be before attacks, some are going to be after attacks. Maybe there'll be some where it's during an attack, but it's a different point on the body or something like that. That's kind of interesting. And then, you know, I guess you're going to have to gauge what kind of weapon you're using and whether or not you're going to put yourself in a bad situation if you're going to exploit that opening while it's doing that attack instead of afterwards. How is that going to interact? I just thought that was an interesting little bit that occurs at a different point in time during the attack sequence than a very similar opportunity you can take off of Raidao. So I'm wondering how that's going to factor into strategies. Definitely a very elementally focused monster. A lot of these attacks are big gas pocket hits. Now, our guy isn't contracting poison because if you can see when we're running the gameplay, he's definitely wearing Rompopolo's armor. So it probably has poison negate built into that for such a poison-oriented monster. I will say the sound effects for the attacks are sounding a good bit meatier than I remember them being in the beta as well. Has a roar stun effect on his roar as well. You can see off the block from that. So yeah, as far as we know, Rompopolo is probably the weakest monster in the Oilwell Basin. They haven't shown anything weaker than him. I think it'd be a little odd for there to be something weaker than him, but he looks to be the weakest one here. Lalabarina seems to be the weakest one in the Scarlet Forest. So some of the bottom level monsters in Wilds for the respective regions still seem to be sizable threats, especially compared to really kind of the majority of Monster Hunter. But even I think the most apt comparison is going to be World, with stuff like Jagras and Gyros and Dodogama and Kuliyaku and Zitsuyaku. All 5 of those guys are schlubs combat-wise. The most dangerous is probably Dodogama, and he's a big, fat goober with a little bit of blast blight on him. Stuff like Lalabarina and Rompopolo have much bigger attacks, much larger attacks, much more elemental output, and they seem to be like the fledgling bottom rungs of some of these environments, which I also find interesting. So they really don't, minus kinda Chatacabra, they don't have a lot of just like little tiny baby pushover monsters. Not that I think that Rompopolo is going to be difficult. I think he's probably going to have a pretty slim health bar in the grand scheme of things, but it certainly caught my eye that there really kinda aren't any goofy little pushover baby monsters. They just kind of thrash in 6 seconds. There's not really, Arzuros kind of looks a little intimidating, but he doesn't do anything crazy. He just kind of swipes around. A lot of the bird wyverns just kind of hop and bite, but you have this guy with big poisonous gas clouds and stuff like that. And Oilwell Basin is only the 3rd map. Now, we don't know if there's 4 maps or 5 maps, but this is only map 3, and the bottom rung is pretty strong by comparison, which is something, again, I find pretty interesting about Wilds. It's just, we've talked about this a ton on the channel, but the game has a far more dangerous feeling to it, but I'm also kind of curious how that's going to wrap into progression with the game. I'm just going to set this to like no volume and just kind of talk as I go. Like, how deep into the game are we going to be before we actually get to Rompopolo? Are they going to design the game more around, you're fighting in the Windward Plains a lot in the opening, and you're not really going to the forest or the Oilwell Basin for a little while, and Rompopolo's really kind of on par with something like Keimatris, or even maybe nearing the point of like Doshiguma. I'm going to stop talking for this. So we got a turf warrior coming in here. Actually gets a shot in on Ajarakan, but then Ajarakan gets in and just crushes him. So we're going to see it a little bit more as we go, but he actually just deflates that big, massive air sac on Rompopolo's back. It's a pretty cool turf war, and a unique one too, which is good. So it seems like Rompopolo's a monster who is just filled up with these big old air sacs, because we saw that Ajarakan can pop them, and we're going to see him pop again a little bit later. So it seems like he has some kind of air-producing organs in his body. Via his tail, he has the ability to eject that air, and it seems to just rile up and boil the oils and the toxins in the basin and cause those to bubble up and explode in these big bursts of gas, which is kind of cool. So I'm wondering if he has dynamic part breaks or exhaustion states. Probably exhaustion state, where you can really limit his ability to produce that airflow. We got a natural trap right there. This big boiling thing of oil that he just detonated. I like the tongue flailing around when he does attacks like that. Let me bump the volume just a teeny bit. That's a pretty big attack for the weakest monster in this region. Let me run that back. Yeah, so for comparison, third map in world is the Coral Highlands. Weakest monster there is Yaku. Compare that to just what you just saw right there. I just think that's kind of nutty. So I'm wondering, like, how late do we get here? I don't know. Or is this game just, yeah, no, there really aren't good, minus like Chatacabra, maybe Quematrice. The pushovers really ain't gonna be that pushovery. Not by Monster Hunter historic standards at the very least. Again, if you get like the end game Elder Dragon armor, I'm sure you can drop Rompo in about 3 minutes. But still, just the comparison between this and the rest of Monster Hunter's history definitely has me very, very interested. And you know what? I also think it allows the lower level weirdos to be way more interesting combat-wise, which tends to be where they fall off, is that they're nice enough, but they don't seem to do a lot of really kind of crazy, super interesting things. I'm wondering which heavy bowgun this is as well. I'm not entirely sure. Glad to see that he has a decent little grab bag of physical attacks. He's nice and quick with the little stabby pincers. He's got a tailspin on him, a couple of tail stabs, a peck attack here and there. Again, wild that this is a brute and not a bird wyvern, but I'm kind of down for it. Some weirdos in the brute category. He also combos some of his tail detonations pretty quickly. So this seems to be the Oilwell Basin gradually starting to change into the more lava-y areas as things are starting to glow. You know, we're not entirely sure how it's going to work compared to, say, like the sandstorms or the Windward Plains or anything. So, curious how his gas attacks are going to differ if everything's all fiery instead of oily. Or maybe he just doesn't go into regions that are more infused with lava and kind of sticks to the more just kind of tarry regions. So that also kind of caught my attention, is the deep oil right here. You see the hunter just a couple of seconds ago just falling into the sludge like that. So it seems to be way deeper. It's deliberately kind of knocked into there. I think in a little bit we'll be knocking Rompo in there quite similarly. So it seems to function quite a bit like the shallow water and the deep snow mechanics and the murky mire stuff that we've had in a couple of the games. You know, again, World is the one that comes to mind the most. So are we going to have some shallow water type of monsters, type of battles? I'm assuming Uthduna's probably going to make use of that quite a bit, but some stuff up here, any kind of like muck and tar oil swimmers, that's probably going to be the Black Flame for sure. But I didn't even really think of deep oily tar as a potential kind of shallow water type of zone for this kind of game. I think that's kind of interesting. And the effects of you kind of cutting through it and just gutting through the muck and the mire there, and just kind of how that dynamically changes with you moving, I think that looks really, really good. Alright, so I don't think that was a part break. I'll rewind that. But he just popped. Yeah, some didn't see anything for a part break or for a wound break or anything like that. Just kind of a major hit. Might be an exhaust state. I'll check in a second. But yeah, no, he just fully deflates. Seems to be a major knockdown too. And like I was saying, you just throw him down to the oil just like you could be thrown down in there too. He's just completely coated in it. Yeah, okay, so this is probably an exhaust state. He's got drool in his mouth. Now he's just wholly coated in the tar. The blue and the purple are almost completely gone. He's got a good looking icon too. So it looks like he consumes the tar in order to reinflate himself. That's interesting. It's pretty much just right back in full form. I was hoping they'd show kind of what he does when he's deflated to see if he can even do some of his big gas attacks anymore, but I guess we'll just have to figure that out. Again, I love that, just that massive ass tongue coming out of his mouth. He's a freaky looking dude. I like a good spooky goober monster. I think Rompopolo does that really, really well. He's kind of he's kind of got like Venom vibes. He's a big brute wyvern Venom chicken. I kind of like it. Alright, down he goes. Fully deflates. Yeah, this one looks pretty good, I'm gonna be honest. Usually, man, the lower level monsters are kind of just there to be like, aw, it's nice to have this little goofball boy just kind of roaming around. But this guy looks like a legitimate threat. It's a lot of big gas clouds going along. Some of them are pretty targeted. He's comboing them pretty well. And then, yeah, he's got like a decent little grab bag of melee attacks. Definitely seems to be pretty poison focused, though. What melee attacks he does have, pretty limited. But some of the stuff he does looks really, really cool. This is looking like a monster where you're probably gonna be wanting poison negate on him. I can see some people just like, oh man, I keep getting poisoned all over the place. Like, I run out of antidotes. It's like, just bring the poison negate. Just bring the poison negate, brother. It ain't worth it. Just bring it. And now we get to fight the monkey man. I gotta tell you, brother. I gotta tell you. I was watching this gameplay. I was like, oh, Ajarakan? I'm kind of interested to see what he does. This dude does some rad stuff. Oh my god, I am really excited to fight Ajarakan. This preview shot this guy up in how much I am excited to fight him. So let's check it out. Ornate flame blast decorative super monkey. Get that sneak attack. Looks to be Lalabarina's sword and shield, by the way, which looks nice. The big rosy blossom petal shield and then the bright red stinger sword. Pretty cool. And again, we're running the Rompopolo armor. A little bit bigger than I was expecting. Not as bulky as Rajang, but like a little bit taller. Nice deep bassy roar too. I also just bottom right corner, that little purple just duck-billed lizard guy. I like him. I really do. He's a cool little friend. Got a rock toss, tail slam. Paw Slipe's big bruiser body slam. And here comes the fire. Looks like he's like smacking his back with his tail to ignite himself. Brings that fire up on him. And just ignites himself. Oh, that looks cool. And then he's got fire Hulk from UMVC Gamma Tsunami attack with the fire and everything like that. Oh, dude. Holy cow. I didn't think this guy was going to have this kind of power. He's got that big shoulder drag. That's a cool move. Fire splash effects on the punches. Combos that. Likes to combo into that shoulder drag with like a couple of different attacks too. So it seems like a combo finisher off of more than just one kind of move, which is interesting. Big dragging fire punch thing. That looks sick. Yeah, I'm telling you, that's the Gamma Tsunami, but with fire. I don't even know how I remembered that. I haven't played UMVC 3 in a long time. It works, though. I like that sound design a lot.
Hey, get out of there!
Okay, this thing's crazy. What the hell is that, man? That's so sick. Gives you blast blight, apparently, too. That's crazy. That's crazy. I just thought this was just gonna be like Fire Monkey Doshiguma. I didn't think he was doing that. We're watching that again. Hold on.
Hey, get out of there!
The little flash and everything, too. It's crazy. That move's crazy. That move's sick. It's like what the Frontier Oregon can do, only way less annoying. That little flash on the end, too. That's wicked, wicked cool. Okay, so stuff like this, we've seen a little bit of this. I think this was in the Oilwell Basin trailer as well, but definitely kind of leading into the fact that there was more kind of human structures and whatnot in the basin before something happened. Because this is just a big machine thing. This is like an activatable trap that you can use, which is kind of cool. Like, this definitely ain't naturally occurring. I think you can see the cool drink down in the item bar, by the way. Nice to have the drinks back after Rise. So you can grab that thing, activates the trap, and then it just fires off that big pummeling iron thing. So he seems to be more of a blast monster than a fire monster. Alright, Alright, so you got the weapon clash thing. I gotta tell you, I've been wanting Blangonga in this game pretty bad. I've been wanting him back. The hand positioning that he's got going right now, it looks a lot like that Monster Hunter Dos opening cutscene where Blango's got his two hands on the blade of the greatsword. He's trying to like pull it out of the hands of the hunter. This animation right here, I kinda, whenever we get an ice map, I think Blangonga might be on it, because it's a really similar type of animation that I'm hoping they reuse for him, because that looks a lot like that cutscene to me. It is definitely built to be something bigger than the Sword and Shield. It is a teeny bit awkward looking, but they're not gonna do a whole bunch of million animations for every individual shield. That's perfectly fine. I wouldn't have expected them to. But yeah, no, I'm kinda... This gives me some Blangonga hope, which with Congalala in here, I was kinda already figuring he was gonna be in here anyway, but I'm a little bit more excited. Throw him back. Yeah, I like how he looks. The little bit of blue on the face with the oranges and the browns and the reds and yellows and everything. He's going in the fire form over there. He looks crazy. Now he's swinging around on this infrastructure in here, and then he gets knocked down, which is mildly disappointing. So he's got a grab animation, very similar to, if you remember, the Rajang intro from Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, where he just grabs you and holds you in his hand, just kind of stares you down, roars at you, and throws you. Very similar to that one. I think this one's pretty sick. And he just drags you. That's pretty sick. Not the most violent pin, but it's got just some really good aura to it.
Time to go on the offensive!
Yeah, he's back up there, comes back down. I want to see what he does up there a little bit more. Oh, here comes this one again. Hell yeah. He's got to dig himself up out of the ground, so if you managed to get away, nice big opening on him.
It's asleep. Right on the paws now.
And who's that off to the side? Obviously, weren't allowed to show much of him. I'm honestly kind of surprised Capcom let him show that shot. That's kind of cool. That's nice and ominous. I like that. That's sick.
Right on the paws now.
Wake him up with a bomb throw. Looks like you can chip off a good chunk of his back. Still gets the sparks off of the shoulder drag, though, even with the back broken. Really likes that attack when he's not flamed. Got some boulder tosses. Cuttable tail. One of the smaller tail cuts, though. Though he honestly probably needs to have a lot of his tail if he's going to ignite his back up like that, so that's understandable. More of like a utility tail cut size. Alright, this is another zone that looks like it's artificially made. This looks like the floor of something, is this nest where he's sleeping, and all these kind of pipe-looking, just looks like wrecked building infrastructure in the background. Like, this totally looks man-made to me. This is a really particularly interesting-looking nest, which I'm all for, man. I still would love something akin to, like, the tower from Dos being remade into something proper, but I've been wanting fights in structures like this. Doesn't seem like he fights up there too much, just uses it to like launch himself. Alrighty, and that's the end of the Monkey Man. So, 2 monsters that are going up in how much I am interested in fighting them, for sure. I liked them in those trailers, I did. But seeing them actually fight and what they can do and really kind of getting a better feel for them, they look good. They really, really do. Ajarakan especially shot up in my estimations of how much I figured I was going to be excited for him. I think he looks great. I think he does a lot of really cool stuff. He's got some good tells. He's got good sound design, cool design just in general. Really, really sick looking animal. And Rompopolo goes from one of your cool looking little early game weirdos, still has that, but just way, way, way more dangerous than I assumed he was gonna be. I think we're just gonna have a lot less dud fights in Wilds. I think when we're going into the tier list and everything, maybe some stuff will be a little bit more annoying, but I think we're going to have a lot less guys on those bottom rungs that, oh yeah, this one just doesn't really do anything, this one doesn't really do anything, he just kind of toddles around, blah, 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 blah. Nah, man, everybody's kind of got something. Everybody's kind of a little crazy. So I'm down for it. I'm down for none of them being boring whatsoever. I think that's honestly probably something decent to do for the early game monsters in Wilds, is just let's have everybody be pretty damn impressive combat-wise. Chata's still kind of a little bit of a baby, but, you know, whatever. That's fine. But, yeah, so thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, I mentioned it at the top of the video, but I've got a trailer for my upcoming celebration and critique of Monster Hunter World, so you can check out the teaser for that project right here coming up. Other than that, this has been CR-Volcanic, or Connor. Very much excited for Monster Hunter Wilds. I'll see you around. Bye-bye. Shout out to all the patrons, and special shout out to Certified Rajang Hater, Dat Boy Doin Da Ding, Ketz, Lander Moon, Nihilist Chimerax, Peaberry, Psychotic Jester, Shaggy Grizzly, Sir Newt Newt, Stromlin, Call Sign Shadow, I Think I Stole Your Sandwich, Pecco Plush, and Sir SS Jacob. Thank you very much, everyone.